Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to study serial images and sequential views. We'll start out defining what these are and then take a look at their use in art, in graphic design, and finally in architecture. For a little preview, check out the Taj Mahal and its use of serial views. So what are sequential or serial views? They are multiple drawings that together will graphically tell a story or a sequence of events. You've got a set of progressive images, and each one of them is linked. They have to be linked together by time and logic. Each frame of your sequential view is going to set the stage for the next one, illustrating an unfolding sequence of events or actions. So take a look at the examples. Let's look at the chocolate Easter bunny. It's a simple unfolding sequence of actions. We can easily tell that story. Take a look at the cartoon or comic on the right. You can see the four images are sequential. They draw the eye around and tell the story. There's a punchline at the end. Although we now most commonly see these sequential or serial views in comic strips and graphic novels, there is a long history of using them in art. Here's a couple of examples. Egyptian hieroglyphics with the pictograms, all right, and stained glass cathedral windows. These will tell a story, Bible stories, in pictures for the benefit of those who can't read. Moving back to the comic books and the graphic novels, sequential views are commonly used in graphic design. And we organize the images in order to direct the viewer on the desired reading path. Let's take a look at this example on the screen. This page right here, at least my eye starts here with this big circle to draw the eye. My eye would follow this arcing path, drop down to this largest image, and finally exit the page down at the bottom right. All right, so there's deliberately a desired reading path set up in this graphic design. The sequential views need to have a relationship to each other. It's a contextual relationship, and that comes from connections between the images, recognizable connections between the repeating images. And a lot of those connections form from gradual transformation of the different forms and surfaces. Go back to that chocolate bunny. That's what we're talking about, gradual transformation. When we're trying to organize our sequential views and present our sequence of images and draw the reader's eye in the correct way through this series, there's a number of different ways that you can do it. One of the strongest is kind of the alphabetical or numerical structure, top down. All right, and from reading practice, left to right. This is really common because we are trained as readers to follow that particular convention. Right. You can also organize along progressive image sizes, all right, either increasing or decreasing. You can use directional arrows, not arrows, and direct your viewer around a page. Or, and this one is fairly commonly used in architecture, you can reference symbols keyed to a map or a legend. So let's go into architecture now, take a look, and why would we use sequential views in architecture? Well, it turns out sequential views are a great way to capture the spatial experience that your user gets from wandering around in a new building. Maybe the choreography of moving through space or walking through an urban area. That's a really common way to use this. So, sequential views are an unfolding story of exploring an environment. Take a look at the example on the right. We have some sequential views of an urban streetscape. All right. And these are organized, check this out, by keying them to a map. All right. So that's the organizational feature in this particular one. This progressive realization, coming around the corner and seeing something new, is what makes space and form exciting. It's engaging to the viewer and it makes them want to keep going and investigate their environment, all right? Causes or triggers interest and anticipation. So here's a couple of examples. Now we're talking about interior views, progressive views through a house. Sequential views capture the experience of moving through space and through time. As designers, we use serial images to describe unfolding design developments or the progression of a process. It could be the sequence of events or a transformation or deformation. It could be a three-dimensional form that has different characteristics when seen from different viewpoints. And finally, this is probably the most common way you can use it to describe sequential views along a scenic path or through a space. So let's take a look at some examples of some of these ways to use serial views. All right. Starting in the top left, this is an example of a three-dimensional object that has different characteristics as you rotate it. All right, so providing those rotated views is really exploring that form. On the bottom, we have a series of sequential townscape views that are keyed to a map, and this really helps bring that map, bring that plan to life, and will help your viewer imagine themselves and their progression through this space. Here's another example of a series of sequential views keyed to an overall architectural, in this case, an axonometric. Here's an interesting set of sequential views. This is a quote, growing house. So you start at the top left, all right? And the idea is that as your family grows, as the family needs change, this house can easily be added onto and sequentially expand. So what have we learned about sequential views? They communicate a narrative, they tell a story, with a series of drawings linked by time and by logic. These images are arranged so the viewer can follow the flow of the presentation. And we use them in architectural design. We use them to develop a predetermined or pre-designed sequence of spatial experiences. We use them to create a sense of anticipation, what's going to happen next. And we also use them in graphic presentations for impact and clarity. Thanks, everyone.